Okay, thank you, Jim. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board to order. The posted meeting agenda, we will be going through it as posted, although we'll have one thing that is being continued because they're not quite ready for us yet, and one that has been withdrawn, one of the applications. I think you've all had a chance to read the meeting minutes from our last meeting that Gretchen sent out. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Melody.
Second,
Second.
Edna.
Any changes, any amendments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Could I hear a motion to approve the meeting notes that Jim has provided us with?
So moved.
Second, Kathy.
Kathy, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Let me see what time it is. I guess we have a few minutes before our first public hearing. I don't know that we really have time to go over the ZBA referral on Blue Brindle. I think it's a little involved.
How about the time extension for Griffin Dunn?
Very good. We can definitely do that. Griffin Dunn, he's the one on Bolenbecker who has requested a time extension for him to submit his paperwork for me to stamp and sign. And it was.
I think it
given
has
in
to
a
do
timely
with the
manner
health. I think it has to do with getting approval from the health department.
From the health department, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So basically, it's sort of procedural, but I do have a resolution. Upon timely request regarding the above referenced site plan and special use permit approved on September 21st, 2020, the planning board hereby grants an extension under section 125-78D2 of 12 calendar months beyond the current March 21st, 2021 deadline for signature and stamping by the planning board chair. The new deadline will be March 21st, 2022. No additional stamp and signature extensions will be permitted. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Melody.
Second, Edna.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Melody,
Aye.
Edna,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Delise,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Okay, so Gretchen, you can let Griffin know that has his extension.
I will do that.
Have we reached 6:35 yet? Close enough?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a mic
Our first public hearing tonight is for Mario Sosto on Rhinecliff Road. It's site plan review for building a single-family dwelling on Route 308. He's coming before us for site plan approval because it's been designated as a scenic road. Is the gentleman here or a representative to give us an idea of what he's proposing to do? Jim, is anyone here for this application?
I'm looking right now. I don't actually see Mario on here. I don't believe so, Michael. I don't see him on here.
Okay, well, why don't we move on to Frank Pinto? Public hearing scheduled for 6:40 tonight. They have requested that we continue their public hearing to April 5th at 6:35 p.m. They're still working with their engineer to get approval from the health department for their expanded septic system for the project that they wish to use, they wish to put in, they wish to do. And I'd like to hear a motion to approve a resolution to continue their public hearing to April 5th at 6:35.
I so move.
Thank you,
Second.
Kathy. Second. Melody? Who
Second,
seconded
Delise.
that? Thank you, Delise. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. We'll so inform. On the Aaron Mulligan application, that has been withdrawn. They have decided to go with the fence all around the property that is not a solid fence, and therefore they do not require planning board approval. They still needed the variance to go 6 feet along the 2 front faces, and the requirements that the ZBA placed in that variance, they still have to meet. Okay. Jim, anyone shown up yet for our first public hearing?
Fortunately, I don't think so.
I'm going to send him an email.
Okay.
Michael, do you want to go to Blue Brindle?
Rhinebeck
We
Rhinebeck
can't go to,
Performing Arts?
we can't go to Rhinebeck Performing Arts until 6:45.
You're right. You're right.
So I think maybe we can jump ahead to Blue Brindle.
Yeah, for the ZBA
ZBA.
referral?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We also have, we're going to see their application for what they're choosing to do. And for that application to be approvable by the planning board, they are going to require a variance, which Jim has put up here for you all to take a look at. Well, we're basically, our responsibility is any variance request, either area or use variance that goes to the ZBA, they are required to refer to the planning board for us to see if we can see any planning issues with the request, the variance, before the ZBA acts on the variance application. So what they're asking for is locating the accessory structure of the garage in front of the primary residence. Our zoning law specifically states that garages should be behind, either on the same front line or behind the primary residence facing the street. 200 square feet for the size of an accessory structure. I believe they're in the 5-acre zone, and I believe 900 square feet is what's allowed. I believe they're going up to 1,100, and 582 square feet for aggregate roofed accessory structures. I think, is it, Jim, is it 1,500 square feet permitted aggregate for roofed
Yes,
structures? And they've gone. over-
Yes, I believe so. And this is for, they're proposing multiple accessory structures, I think 2 on the site, this and a pool house.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the-
So that's what the 2 applications are, that's what the 3 applications, ZBA applications are for. Basically, granted these variances, then the application before us is one that we can consider and we could approve. The granting of variances by the ZBA does not require us to approve an application and the various components of that application, but it permits us to permit it, to approve it, given the variances by the ZBA. I don't want anyone to think that by recommending to the ZBA that they, use their own judgment, whatever, that we are therefore committing ourselves to approve an application, which would be, at the present time, we could not approve. If the variances are given, we would be in a position to approve if we chose to. But once again, we have the discretion to decide whether or not we think it's appropriate that the project that they are proposing to do could be built out to the nature of what the variances are requesting. I hope that makes sense.
You
Anyone
know
have any
what?
questions?
It didn't make sense to me. Could you try
Uh-oh.
again? Just
I will try
simply
again.
try again? Are you
I will
gonna
try
ask?
again.
Please, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Basically, what we're doing is looking at these variance requests from a planning standpoint. Do we see it creating any planning problems? Anything that we would find to be difficult to address as we review their project? They're asking for 3 different variances to allow them to do things on their property that the actual written zoning law would not permit, but that the ZBA has the authority to permit them to do. If we were to recommend to the ZBA that we don't see any planning issues cropping up just from these variances, and we are therefore, usually in our language, we are saying that they should use their own judgment and
Okay.
any comments they receive from the public in deciding whether or not to grant these variances. If the variances are granted, it means that the application that will be before us, that we'll be reviewing tonight, is one we could approve as written. It doesn't mean with the variances granted that we have to approve it as written. We still have the discretion to decide as we review it, the site plan, if the information we gather, that we decide that we don't believe that let's say the size of an accessory structure should be 1,100 square feet. We feel that they should make it smaller, or that they have an excessive amount of aggregated roofed accessory structures. How's that, Kathy?
Thank you, much
You know,
clearer,
Michael,
I appreciate
Michael, let me interject here. I think this has been very useful to explore this because they're going to come on later with a new application. And now the planning board has some idea of what the issues are. So I would defer the vote on this referral resolution until after they've made their application, understanding,
Okay,
now understand what the issues are.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh.
Thank you, Melody.
okay.
You're welcome.
I have no objection to doing that. Do we have either of our applicants, Mr. Sosto or Rhinebeck Performing Arts here, Jim?
I'm here. Rhinebeck Performing Arts is here.
Okay, is it 6:45?
Not quite.
Gretchen, did you contact Mr. Sosto?
I sent him an email.
No response, I assume.
Hi, are you able
Thank
to
you,
hear
Gretchen.
us?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Hi, this is Jess and Dyra McCabe, the owners on the Blue Brindle project. We just have a question for you real quick.
No, we're not to you yet. We're waiting for our 6:35 to come in.
Okay.
Weren't we were just speaking about it at the moment. I didn't know if we could ask a question about it.
We can when we get to your new application.
I
We
think it
were,
was related to.
we were actually talking about the referral, the ZBA referral. So we'll circle back.
We'll get to you. Have no fear, we will get to you. Okay, I guess it's gotta be 6:45. Well, somewhere at 6:45.
Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
My name is Patrick Sheehan. I am attending your meeting because my family owns the adjoining property on Rhinecliff Road to Mr. Sosto's intended project.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to speak on the project at this time, but my concern with that half-acre parcel is it's essentially underwater and has been since my parents bought that adjoining property in 1975. I don't really understand how he can effectively put in a septic field on that parcel, given the water that is in the vicinity. I believe the parcel to the west has a small pond on it. And to the rear of that property, the Astor development, that's all wetland behind my family's property line. They're all half-acre lots there. And we own two adjoining half-acre lots that are right on that eastern property line of the property Mr. Sosto bought last year. So that's my biggest concern is how do you put a septic in there, even an above ground system, and get that water off of that property in an effective way?
Okay. I think probably it's 6:45 now. So is Mr. Sosto here yet or a representative, Jim?
No, no one else is.
Okay. All right.
All right. I suggest we, oh golly. I
Rhinebeck
suggest.
Performing Arts.
Yeah,
I
I
believe
think
it
we
is.
move on to that. If Mr. Sosto comes on, we circle back to him.
Yep, I think that's what we'll do. Okay, who's here representing Rhinebeck Performing Arts?
I'm here. Lou Trapani on the line.
Okay, anyone with you?
Yeah, Warren Smith is here.
Okay, Warren and I.
Yep.
Okay. We had a number of questions at our last meeting, and my understanding is that Warren has submitted sort of redrawn plans for the outdoor stage because of the height limit to try and bring it back within specifications.
Yes, we made a change to the configuration of the roof. We dropped it from a 4 and 12 pitch to a 3.5 and 12 pitch, and dropped the height of the proscenium half a foot to 11'6". And so our average height above grade complies with the 20-foot maximum there for an accessory structure. That was one of the questions that we had last time.
Yes. And one of the other questions, of course, was noise.
Noise, right,
The
sound,
neighbors- some of the
that was a
neighbors
big
had
one, right?
concern.
Mhm. Yeah. So as you know, we did a sound check at the site. I wasn't present for that. I believe Lou was. The data gathered from that was forwarded to the planning board. And yeah, Jim has that up on the screen there. So interestingly, the Rhinebeck noise ordinance, talks about what can be heard at a neighbor's property to any adjoining, this is a commercial use or a non-residential use adjacent to residential uses. And during the daytime, the maximum allowed is 60 decibels, but after 8 p.m., it actually drops to 50 decibels. And so interestingly enough, as we look at the recordings taken at the site, we see that the talking with amplification was 60 decibels, although it was found to be barely understandable at the perimeter of the site. Piano with amplification was 50 decibels, and a piano with vocals amplified was back to 60 decibels. And just as a matter of observation, cars and trucks passing intermittently was 75 to 85 decibels, but we can't really consider cars and trucks here. So that means that we would be fine during the day with the 60 decibels, but at 8 o'clock we would have to drop to 50, and that obviously presented a challenge for Performing Arts Center. So as Lou and his colleagues there put their heads to that, they said, all right, we're going to move our performance hours up to start all shows at 6 p.m. to be over by 8 p.m. So we will be all done with any decibels by 8 p.m. And so we will not be exceeding the noise ordinance. And in addition, Lou has made a commitment that they will not be doing any rock musicals, even during the hours when they can have 60 decibels. Not be doing any rock musicals. It will just be sort of Broadway shows and folk or other things. It will not be as strident as rock musicians sometimes can be. And what I'll let, having kind of given you the overview, I'll ask Lou if he wants to clarify or amplify anything that I said there.
The only thing I want to amplify is that this was a real test. He's a real sound engineer. He stood across the street from our property, opposite the entrance to Rhinebeck Performing Arts, and we took 5 different readings. And without amplification, we were well within the limits. With amplification, we did hit 60. But it was a real test, and it was done at 6:30 in the evening. It was done on Tuesday, the 19th of January. So I trust the numbers, and we will make adjustments accordingly. As Warren said, we'll go up at 6, we'll be down at 8, we'll do no rock. And because of COVID-19, I can't have big bands anyway. So the largest an orchestra is ever going to be is a keyboard, a guitar, a drum kit, and a flute. I mean, we can't afford anything else now. So that's our amendment and our adjustment.
Another question I know that we had was the lighting on the stage going out into the audience. As you know, our lighting requirements require, full cutoff lighting, that basically from off site, you cannot see the source of the light, the bulb, the whatever, and that the light trespass, I believe, at property line is supposed to be no more than 0.25 lumens, something of that level. Perhaps I misunderstood the way the lights were going to be aimed. I thought I heard that they were to be aimed out into the audience, as opposed to stage lighting for the that would be down lighting for the performance for whatever. Perhaps I misunderstood.
Warren, I think, answered that question, but the intent is any lighting for the stage is obviously shining onto the stage. So that shouldn't be intrusive. Any other lighting would be lighting to ensure that people don't trip over themselves on the way in or out. But now, since shows are starting at 6 and ending at 8, during the summer, the sun is going down after 8 p.m. So I don't know if this is an issue any longer.
Well, there's the placement of the lights would be the issue. If they were were placed in such a way that they would not be in conformity with the town zoning light regulations. So that, I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Yeah,
No
they were
proposed-
noted as downlights in the last submission, Michael. I
Okay,
mean, aimed downward at the front row of the parking. They're not going to be shining off the property.
Okay. Just a question to make sure I understand this. So at no time, and this relates to the parking, at no time do you ever envision performances taking place simultaneously on the outside stage and in the inside of the theater. Is that correct?
Not at the same time. That would be
Okay.
impossible. There would be performances on the same day, 2:00
Okay.
outside, 6:00 inside.
So you would be allowing enough time for the turnaround of parking because you're not
Yes,
increasing the parking capacity. You're just spreading it out over several performances. Is that
that's
correct?
correct. That's correct. It can't be simultaneously.
Not even in the summer when you're doing children's theater or
It,
anything like
it's
that?
impossible. It's impossible. The rear wall of the theater, where the garage door is so thin that
Okay,
any sound outside would bleed inside and vice versa. And we just can't do that.
okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Michael, I have a question.
yes, Edna.
Is it possible, Jim, I don't know if you can do this, but while the site plan is up, could we see where the sound measurement was taken on that site plan? Maybe you could reduce it, and I'd just like to know where the people were when they were taking these measurements.
So Edna, it was across the road from the entrance drive, directly across from the drive off of the entrance to Salisbury Court, if you will, off of Route 308. So I don't know if Jim is controlling a cursor or arrow, but it would be at the entrance drive, basically at the lower left of the drawing of the site plan and across Route 308.
And Warren, does that represent where the people who've commented before reside?
No, they were further west on the other side. There's a residential property directly to the west of Salisbury Court, and there were the property yet beyond that.
Okay,
That's my understanding. Is that correct, Lou?
I don't know where they live. I don't know. You're correct as to where our placement was. There's a light pole on the opposite side of the of Route 308, and that's where Scott stood.
Is there a reason why a couple other sites weren't also used to take sound readings? Especially since to the west is actually where, one of the residents had spoken to us and had concerns over noise and sound.
And I'm
well,
on
we-
the call, by the way. This is Bob Smith.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we did it where we did it because we figured it would be the loudest.
Yes, but actually that's not where the concerns that were aired at the last public hearing came from.
And also, if you look at where the outdoor stage is, it's projecting to the west, not to the south.
That's also correct. I would think it would be probably prudent to have a sound test done as the noise ordinance requires. It's at the property line of adjoining properties. And since there have been concerns expressed by people living to the west, I think it would just be, rather just good practice to actually determine exactly what the sound is there. I think as Edna points out, sound being what it is, it's going to be projected out in that direction, certainly more fully than it's going to be over to the audience, than it's going to be projected across 308 at a 90-degree angle. And also you have a good deal of buffering along parts of that, I noticed from, pines, things like that. So I think it's really incumbent for the planning board to request that sound test be done along that western boundary to see exactly what's involved there, because that is the area from which we were receiving concern.
And this is Bob Smith. Is it okay if I speak for a moment?
Yes.
At the last meeting, I was told that no amplification was used this summer during the daytime. And I could hear in my backyard, the second property west, every word that was being said very clearly. So to add amplification to that, I can't imagine that it is not going to carry tremendously across those yards.
Yeah, I don't know how the other members of the planning board feel, but I think that just in fairness to the neighbors and also to make sure we have a fully accurate view of the potential noise situation here, that readings be taken along that western side.
Michael, I'm
Yes,
wondering whether Mr. Smith might join the sound recording session.
I don't see any reason why he couldn't be invited to do so.
I will make every attempt. It's unfortunately right now I am providing health care assistance to a terminally ill mother-in-law in Pittsburgh area. So I'm home maybe a week and then I'm down here for 2 weeks, but I will try to do everything I can to be available. I know I will be around in about a week and a half, I'll be around for at least 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, would you allow people to go on your property to take the tests?
Happily. It
Okay.
might be difficult right now with all the snow. I'm not there to clear it, but I'm going to be.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, they would.
But we would need your authorization for those sound tests to be done on your property.
You have it at any time, whether I'm there or not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Warren, if Lou, if you guys could arrange to have those tests done along there, I think that would be very helpful. I think another question that's come up is, I think this project has, I think, evolved. It's to be a permanent feature of the Performing Arts Center. Would that be correct? It's not just a COVID situation, but it's to be a permanent feature.
It will be used permanently in the summer, yes.
Okay.
I think what we're thinking is we would look to you to define what the summer season means. That will help.
It probably means, yeah, it probably means the second week of June to the first week of September.
Okay, well, we'll look for you to verify that so that we can convey to the neighbors exactly when this activity will take place, so that we can factor in their feelings about that. So, I take your word right now, but we'll factor that into the decision making.
Warren, this is Jim Levy. I think on one of the sheets, not the one up here, you actually had a note about hours of operation, which it sounds like it may change. Can we just make that a note on the plans, the hours of operation, as well as what the season will be, so we have the months and the hours of operation noted for the record on the plan sheet?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I think it will also be helpful to get on the plan sheet what Lou talked about earlier, that there will not be performances simultaneously in the 2 stages.
All right.
Do other members of the planning board have any questions? Okay, are there any members of the public?
I have a question. Would
Yes.
Mr. Smith please email me or email to the center his exact address?
I think if we can funnel that through Gretchen, that would be the best way to do it.
Yes.
And establish personal relationships.
Sure. Howsoever you do it, if I'm
Okay.
going to do this test again,
Okay,
which I'm willing to do, I need to know exactly where I'm placing my sound engineer.
okay. Gretchen, can you coordinate that? Hello, Gretchen. Well, I'm
Yes, I can do that.
okay, thank you so much.
And
Michael Frazier, I'm here as a member of the, are you entertaining comments at this point in regard?
how about if a planning board person just asks one question before you comment,
Please do, Edna.
if I may?
Yes.
When the sound test is done, this probably goes without saying, but I'm assuming that the speaker or the noise maker will be standing on the proposed stage. facing the audience, right?
That's,
Yes.
that's the way it was done the last time. We'll do it exactly the same way.
Great, thank you.
Michael, what did you have to say?
This is Mike Frazier. I'm one of the trustees of the Center for Performing Arts, and I have no comment regarding the sound issue nor some of the technical issues that were raised here. The only thing I want to raise is that the center serves a lot of children in the course of the summer. And we want to be able to continue to do that. That outdoor stage allows us to do that very well. And we think it's a very important service to the young people of the community. And that's all.
Thank you,
Thank
Michael.
you.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, my name is Araya Minnow. I am also a member of the board. I'm the treasurer for the Rhinebeck Performing Arts. Thank you so much for having us. But I would agree. The center does offer a lot to the community. And as the treasurer, I can speak that if we are not allowed to do outdoor performances this summer, our finances it's very critical. The center may not survive. And I think that the center serves a really, really big part of our community. And I know that we need to do everything that we can to make sure that we are respectful to our neighbors, which I'm sure that we will do so. But I would like to kind of keep that out there too, that it's very important for us to be able to do some kind of outdoor performances this summer in order for our finances to line up with continuing through COVID.
Thank you.
This is Bob Smith. If I may speak again for a moment.
Absolutely.
I have no issue with the Performing Arts Center doing what they're doing. I put up all summer with the noise because I understand with COVID, there was a necessity to be able to separate and move outside. I didn't say a word. But remember now, I've been there since before this was constructed, and it was agreed that there would be no outdoor performances once the building was constructed. That's how they got board approval to begin with. That's the history. They were supposed to build within a year. They didn't build, I think, until the third or fourth year. And so we got to listen to this stuff a lot. And it's disconcerting. It's better that it's not happening at night. I'll give you that. And I have no issue as long as COVID causes you to do things abnormally. I have no issue with that. I'm sure it provides a great service to the community. But the neighbors were very clear in asking to be protected from the sound. This was an R5 area that was rezoned to allow them to do this or amended to allow them to do this. But it's a residential area. If you tell me you need to do that this year for COVID, I would not have complained. I didn't complain last year, and I wouldn't have complained this year with COVID still going. But now you're making it permanent. Now I've got a lot of concern.
Thank you. That's something we will certainly take into consideration as we review this application. The
Well, I think
distinction
the
between
point that's
an emergency situation and a situation of a ongoing use as a permanent part of the program. Melody?
I would agree with Michael. We're all aware of COVID, but the decision we make regarding this will continue on to a non-COVID period. So we need to balance the immediate needs of the Rhinebeck Performing Arts Theater and the future. So I think more information is warranted at this point so we can make the right decision.
This is Lou Trapani speaking. I totally agree with you. I'm very respectful of everybody's wants and needs. The timetable as you're proposing it to me now, I won't have a stage this summer, and I will be shut down by the fall. I've lost 85% of my revenue. I'm living on fumes. So if I don't have a stage open in June, and it doesn't look like I will, this whole conversation is moot. The center simply won't be open.
Michael, I have a question.
Yes, Edna.
Is it possible for the planning board to approve this application for use only through some date that we decide, at which time everyone thinks COVID will pretty much be over. And any use thereafter would have to come back to the planning board, and this would give everybody a season of experience.
I think the problem is that once what they're proposing to do as a permanent structure would have a certain, financial commitment to it. And with the possibility that after the COVID situation is no longer something we're addressing, the possibility of no longer being able to use it, I don't know, given the financial situation that they say that they're in, I don't know that they would be in a position to afford to invest in something that they could only use for perhaps this coming summer. Hopefully we won't be in this COVID situation after this summer.
Yeah. Who made that suggestion?
Edna Lockman.
Edna, this is Lou speaking. How about this? How about if I did what I did last summer? A temporary, non-permanent stage, no roof, audience sitting on the grass, on their blankets, with their picnic gear. How about if I just recreate what I did last summer? I took it down, but we still have it. I can put it back up. No roof, no permanent stage, nothing permanent.
I think that's a definite option. I think one thing we would want to do is discuss it with Michelle, our zoning enforcement officer, to see exactly what the regulations would be in terms of a temporary operational permit. And I think we still need to do the noise testing.
I'll do the sound check, but we were already committed to doing 6 to 8 p.m. We're already committed to that regardless.
Mhm.
I'm already committed to no rock and roll regardless, but I will do another sound check.
Okay. And I think that Mr. Smith also said he understands the COVID situation is what's driving the need for an outdoor stage this year, since the indoor stage can't be used. He understands that, and he would be willing to go along with that. I think his concern is that this would become a permanent feature beyond the COVID situation. And at that point, I think his feeling is that the potential noise issues, and your testing will give us a better handle on that, is something he would prefer not to have to put up with once it's no longer an emergency situation.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I
Lou,
know-
can I ask a question? When you put up the temporary stage and tenting or whatever you did last summer, was that in the same location?
Yes.
I mean, is that something that could be in a different location toward the back of the property?
There's no lawn back there. That's all
Okay.
a paved parking area.
Okay, I'm sorry to have to ask that question, but I understand.
Yeah.
I think you
No,
had a
no, I
question.
understand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can't we still follow through with getting the noise
Yeah.
measurement done? You know, if there's a temporary solution to ensure that there's a profit made this year with the temporary stage, will we continue the application process and gather more information for determining if a long-term solution is still viable?
He
Yes,
indicated
Right,
delays. He was doing it. He's gone ahead
Yeah,
with the sound.
I will go ahead and do the sound thing. I've already said I would. I will do another test.
Elise, yes, we can do that.
Yeah, and
if
I
there
would
be a
hope-
temporary use for it, a temporary stage and whatnot, that would not foreclose the application for a permanent stage. But it is something I want to discuss with Michelle, just to make sure from a zoning standpoint, and as our enforcement officer, very often for tent permits and things like that, she's the one who issues them. And since this would be a temporary use, this is a temporary stage, I'm not sure exactly where it falls under our zoning law, and I just want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly.
Lou, didn't Michelle approve that for this past season?
When I
That's
called
what I
her up
checked.
and I said, I asked her if I needed a permit, and she said, absolutely not.
Okay. If she says that again, then that would be sufficient, I would think, because she's the enforcement officer and the interpreter of the zoning law. And I think as Delisa suggested, on an emergency basis, we could permit that to go forward. The planning board would not make any ruling on an outdoor stage, which would deny the ability to do that, recognizing that the application for the permanent stage would still be a viable application. We're waiting for further information to see whether or not we would be able to permit that as approve that application for a permanent stage back there, but that the temporary one for this year, with Michelle's approval, could go forward.
So we can keep open this application pending the other actions?
Yeah, I don't see why not. What we would probably do is continue it to a date to be determined later, since I know there's some
Yes, of
issues
course.
about trying to set up the sound test. It would keep
Right.
this viable. It would not, it would not disappear. You would not have to reapply again.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's very sound.
They would have to renotice as well, just so you know.
Yes, it
Yeah,
would.
but that's a minor hurdle, right?
Well, it's certainly minor compared to having to, pay all the fees to start the process up. again.
Well, exactly, exactly. This sounds very viable to me.
Any other questions, comments from members of the planning board?
Yeah, I just have one real quick,
Sean.
Michael. I'm wondering if anyone could help out and maybe at no cost to the center, just looking at possible landscape options that would help reduce noise if this continues to be a challenge.
In terms of additional buffering.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking with another sound firm about a wall similar to the kind of wall you see on highways to reduce sound. And
No, could we talk
anecdotally,
about, could we talk about vegetation, Lou, not a wall?
well, what I was told is that vegetation doesn't work.
Well, I don't
Vegetation
want-
does not. Yeah.
I just would discourage you from going to a wall.
Well, then I don't know what the answer. A sound engineer told me vegetation does not appreciably diminish sound, that
But
the
I
only
would-
thing that works is a wall.
I would encourage you to think about your neighbors and the fact that a wall is not a good solution.
What you might do, Lou, is speak to the Northern Duchess Rod and Gun Club, who went through a rather arduous sound process to take necessary steps to buffer the noise from their shooting range, their skeet shooting range, and things of that sort a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And what they did to bring their noise levels down within the town's requirements. It was a rather long process. It was quite involved, but they were able to come up with an approvable plan to mitigate the sound coming from their members' use of the facility.
Hi, are you taking more comments?
We are.
Hi, my name is Victoria Howland. I live in Kingston, New York, and I've been involved with the center for almost 10 years now. And I'm an educator as well. And I just feel like I want to reiterate what Araya said and what Michael Frazier said about the children and supporting the children. And like these kids that I have in school, they're not allowed to sing in choir, okay, because of the pandemic. And I really feel that the center has gone above and beyond to have opportunities for people to be creative, to put that into the community. And I really also want to acknowledge that they're willing to compromise so much to keep that going and to put more art into the world and to put more art and experience and opportunity into the Hudson Valley and to the surrounding community. So I really think that they need to be acknowledged for that. And I really hope that we also can come to some sort of way that this will work for everyone. But I want to thank the Center for Performing Arts for all they do. I know I'm a little biased, but I really think that their mission and the way that they have persevered and risen to the occasion during this pandemic is really admirable. So thank you for hearing our comments, and thank you.
Thank you.
May I also make a comment?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jeff Martin, known as Dad's Phone, thanks to my 12-year-old son. I've been on board for about 15 years, and I can say to you that when we talk about the theater and the community theater, it really is the community. What happens at that theater affects Rhinebeck, Red Hook, High Park, and the surrounding areas in dramatic ways. And what I'm sure you can realize is that when a play is put on, people go to dinner and people shop Rhinebeck, and people just don't come to the theater for the 2 hours to enjoy a show. It's many times a full day. So of the things probably that's being asked for this year or last year, this is not a theater request. This is not a selfish, let's put up a sign and let's put up a road, or let's do, something else to their house. This is a request to help the community. And in helping the theater, you actually help the community in so many ways. We took we did some work, Lou, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, to identify the amount of money that the theater brings into the town. It was astronomical, truly. And so what we're asking for is not just for the theater. Vicky is right. I mean, certainly the children are helped, and they grow up to be a confident, good kids that can enhance their communities, as Vicky has seen. But we also can enhance the community in dramatic ways by helping the theater just do this one little thing. Restaurants depend on us, and the surrounding areas depend on us economically to do what we do. So we're asking really to help the community by doing this, not the theater.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to speak
You're
again because I'm tired of the commercials. This is Bob Smith. Years ago, when they asked to put this theater in a residential area, the neighbors suggested that it would not be a good idea to approve it for exactly these reasons. I don't have anything against the Performing Arts Center. I think it's a great service that's provided. I have nothing against the Performing Arts Center. However, I live in a residence that's close by that gets to listen to everything that goes on there. And during COVID, I never made an issue. I tried to be a good neighbor. Now, I mean, I wish I had known that this was commercial time. I would have called 15 neighbors and had each of them get on the line and talk about the noise that they hear. It's a noise issue. It's not a theater issue. It's a noise issue.
Well, it's a free ticket.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment. Beth Ann's back here, and while I agree, that it sounds like the noise issue is something that is a concern for neighbors. I think it is important to talk about the impact that the center has had on the community, because if they are not able to continue their work, it is a loss to our community. It's a loss to our businesses. I happen to have 3 children who have participated for the past 12 years, one still actively participating. 2 of them have gone off to college, and I can tell you, as performing arts students now, they are head and shoulders above their peers. They're, because of the preparation provided to them by the quality that's offered at the Center for Performing Arts. And I think it is important that we consider as a community how we continue to help them not just survive during COVID. I mean, listen, I'm in business too, and I get it. But beyond that, how much more of an impact and how much more opportunity can be had by allowing, given the regulations and following the rules and all of that, but how much more of an opportunity can be had? Because I know that my 3 kids are not the only ones, and my 22-year-old is graduating soon, and I have an 18-year-old who's a college junior who is, they are showing up with skills that their peers simply do not have, from people coming from all over the country to the schools that they're in, and they don't have the same set of skills. And it's not because of anything I did, it's because my kids practically lived at the center. And so, and it's not intended at all to be a commercial. It's just to show, I have nothing to do with the board. I just have to do with my seeing how much value the education provided just in community service, in problem solving, in working together, all of those things, not just the arts part of it, but the entire intention that is created is really honestly helped to create my kids' desire to do theater. So, I just think it's important that as we consider how, you know, COVID and everything else, but how do we really show that we understand the value of such an arts venue in our community? Because not all communities have this, and to lose it would be devastating.
Thank you. I think at this point, what I'd like to say is I know we're going to have the sound testing done, and I'm going to take it upon myself to speak to Michelle to sort out what would be required for a temporary use of an outdoor stage during the COVID period for this summer. And we'll go with that. Are there any other comments or questions before I ask for a resolution to continue this public hearing to a time to be determined in the future?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Rich Walchuk. I live adjacent to Bob, who commented earlier. And first of all, I agree with all his comments that, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures, and there are no issues with having to make accommodations during the COVID crisis. But I also hear everything on my property that's going on at the Performing Arts Center. During the summer when the chorus line was being performed, I heard that constantly. There were one or two times where there were music acts being performed. I heard that on my deck in the evening. So I do have concerns also about the sound quality because I hear it directly. And like Bob, I'm willing to make accommodations. COVID, you want to be a good neighbor, but the long-term ramifications, I'm really not thrilled about, really. I know the Performing Arts Center serves the community, and I applaud that, but I really do think you have to rein in or constrict the sound on this, because I can hear it on my deck. I can hear the musicals, I can hear the bands playing, and that needs to be reined in. And I agree with Bob, who'd commented earlier about tests being performed and proceeding from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think at this point,
Michael, I just have a quick comment or a question, I guess. You know, obviously we're getting the noise test, which is going to provide a lot of insight in understanding the noise. And there's a temporary solution with Michelle's approval. But in addition, if we find the noise to be measured, you know, correctly to potentially keep this application open, you know, maybe there's also opportunity to come up with a modified schedule post-COVID that doesn't bombard the neighbors all the time. That the slots in which the outdoor stage is used is very specified and in small doses. It does, you know, maybe it's not a full all summer long.
But didn't he just say, forgive me, Lou, say 6 to 8, the limited hours? Didn't you say that?
That's what I would do. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
And the evenings would be most probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Occasionally, you might add a Thursday. The Thursday through Sunday performances would be, I mean, we want to kick off this summer with William Shakespeare. It's the spoken word. There's no score. There's no musical accompaniment. There shouldn't be a need for massive amplification. It's just Shakespeare. And it's an important festival. It's in its 15th year. It's the only one of its kind north of Central Park. So that's how we'll start it out. If we can put up the temporary stage again, that's what we will do.
thank you. I guess what I would like to do is ask for a motion to approve continuing this public hearing to a time and date to be determined while we
So
try to get
moved.
information. Thank you, Melody.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Very good. Okay, thank you all.
Thank
I will
you.
let you all know what I hear from Michelle so that we can certainly get that information as quickly as possible to the Performing Arts Center in terms of their temporary, of the ability to have a temporary stage during the COVID period of this summer. And I thank you all for your comments, your questions, and your participation.
You.
Having said that, I will ask one more time, is Mr. Sostower a representative here, Jim, for his project?
No, Michael, nobody's come online.
Okay. Gretchen, if we were to continue this public hearing, where would it fall on your schedule?
It's up to you guys if you'd want to do it on the next February one. We usually don't do that, but given this situation, it's up to you. Otherwise, it would be March 1st.
Which agenda looks less overburdened already? March 1st or the 15th?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm thinking March 1st would probably be best.
Recommend March 1st.
Yeah. And at what time would you like us to do it on March 1st?
3:25 in the afternoon. No, I'm joking.
6:45.
Okay. Could I hear a motion to continue Mr. Sostow's public hearing to March 1st at 6:45?
So moved, Melody.
Second.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead,
Edna.
Ed.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay, we have
Aye.
one new application, Blue Brindle LLC, Ackerd Hook Road. Site plan, special use permit, single-family dwelling, garage, pool, and pool house. And who will be
Hello.
representing the applicant?
Hello, Mr. Trumbull. My name is Michelle Zerfus with Berger Engineering. With me tonight is Serge Young, the architect, Jessica and Dyer McCabe, the applicants.
Okay, are you going to present then?
Am.
Okay, I think Jim probably has.
I'm working on getting the files up. I just had to go through a couple folders here. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
That's right up. Yep.
Excuse me, may I ask a question? Did the South Stowe matter get adjourned to the next meeting?
Yes, it did, to March 1st at 6:45.
Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your
Yes,
evening,
thank
folks.
you. And thank you for your comments.
Not at all.
That's a good one to start with, Jim.
Okay. Just need to turn it a couple times. All right, Michael, I think we're good to go now.
Okay. If you'd like to take us through the application?
Sure. So the proposal is for a single-family dwelling with a detached garage and a accessory dwelling unit is the pool house. The project, the house and all the buildings are clustered in the center of the site. The pool house is 900 square feet of living space, habitable living space, plus 200 square feet of storage for pool equipment. And that's where the 1,100 feet comes. The other area for the 1,500 square feet for the accessory is the 3-car garage, which is pretty typical for people who have a 3-car garage. Because of the left, or you push it to the right on the left side, you'll see where the contours are such that you can't really get the garage in front of it, behind the house. I guess it shows better on a different one, but to the, this will be okay. To the right of the house, as you're looking at it, you're looking north, and it's the east side of the house. You can see the contours there. If you tried to put the garage there, just off the edge is a cliff. So you have to disturb more area, plus you would not allow an emergency access to the back. If somebody had to drive back there or they had to try to get to the back to the pool house. And that's why the garage is in the front. The garage is over 1,000 feet from the road, so it's really not going to be noticed, and it blends in very well with the house. So those are the variances that the zoning board is considering, is the location of the garage being in the front, and it is because of the topography. The pool house being 1,100 square feet, and the part of the reason is it's a 1-bedroom house or one-bedroom dwelling. The owners plan to live in it while the main house is being built, and then after the house is built, then their guests, their family, their friends will be able to stay there when they come to visit. And then the area is the size of a 3-car garage plus the pool house. It's the big area. The reason that we're here in front of the planning board is because the site is adjacent to a historic site, and there's a special use permit for the accessory dwelling, plus it's major excavation to be able to get the driveway cut in and to get the house and the pool house and everything dug out, but also filled in. So it's excavation as in earthwork, cut and fill. Any material that's cut on the site will stay on the site. So it's not a mining operation. We're not going to move anything off. We're going to keep everything on site. Between the house and the pool house is the septic system, which does have health department approval. There's area. There'll be a drilled well, which is just to the upper right of the house.
Okay.
And let me see which and then you also have in your packet what the house will look like. There are wetlands on the site, but we're over 100 feet, well over 100 feet from any of the wetlands. That's going to be in a different packet.
Okay.
Different set of drawings. That was in the site plan. It was in the zip file. It's the site plan sheet. Okay, and this is the house. This will be the front of the house, and the architect is here, and he can explain what the house will look like better. This is the front of the house without the garage, and then there's also a view of the house with the garage, which basically blocks off. That's back of the house, side of the house. Okay, there's the one back. That's looking at the house, the garage, not from the roadside, but from the east. You can see the 3 doors. And if you go back one, that's looking at the house from the road. So the 2 windows there on the right are windows in the garage. And if you're standing at the road, you can't tell that you're looking at a garage.
Okay.
So I believe that now, Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions or.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Is there also a picture of the pool house?
It was in the packet. There, that's the pool house. So that's the front of the pool house looking at it from the pool. And then the floor plan is off there on the left. But the pool is sitting in front of it. And you can see that there's going to be a fence to go around the pool. And it's just your 4-foot high picket fence. The non-climbable safety type fence.
Other questions?
Michael? I think
Yes.
the planning board has never really figured out exactly how we could best deal with applications where there is an application for an accessory dwelling that will be built and occupied before the house is built and has a CO. I don't know that this is a huge issue, but maybe the planning board should have some way of dealing with this, because you're going to have an accessory dwelling lived in when it's not an accessory to a house.
True. I think this is a question for Michelle once again, to determine if the overall plan is to be approved for the house and the accessory dwelling, is that sufficient so that the accessory dwelling does not become the principal structure, which would then create issues with the house itself, which would be well beyond what would be permitted for square footage for an accessory structure in the zoning district. I think this went through Michelle, this application, which is why it got to us. Was Michelle, the zoning enforcement officer for the town of Rhinebeck, was she aware of the intent to build the accessory structure, accessory dwelling first for the owners to live in that while the main house was being built? You know, if that was that question raised with her?
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
I do not know if she was aware of that or not.
Yes, I specifically remember that we had that conversation on our call a couple weeks ago.
That's Jessica McCabe, one of the applicants.
Okay. What I think we'll need is just a letter from Michelle stating that, you know, she reviewed this and in her determination, she believes that it's something that can be done under our zoning regulations. And then have that in the record. Because that is a question that the planning board can't make that decision, but the zoning enforcement officer can. And I think that's something we will refer to her.
Yeah, I agree, Michael, and it may even be a building department issue with, you know, issuing COs and things, but I don't think it's something the planning board needs to look in detail, as long as one of those departments gives us a verification of what they think needs to happen.
Okay. And I don't think it needs to hold up our review of this application either. It may impact whether or not they can do what they choose to do in terms of the order in which structures are built, but I don't think it needs to hold up our review of the application. Any other questions? Okay, I have a procedural
Michael,
resolution.
Michael,
Yes.
this is Jim. I have a if the planning board members don't have any. More comments than questions, but comments for the applicant and applicant's representative. Looked at you were proposing floodlights on the plans, and the town's lighting code does not permit floodlights. Lighting has to be shielded and cutoff lighting. So that's something I think you should take a look at as it relates to 2556, which is the lighting section of the code. Make sure that they fit. The other item related to lighting is I think there was uplighting proposed, and that is strictly prohibited in the code. Uplighting is only permitted, I think, for flagpoles. So that's something else I'd recommend you take a look at. A couple other items that I found, and I don't know, we've discussed this one before, Michael, but it did note in the EAF form that the site contains a northern long-eared bat. That is a protected species. And I don't know if we've had discussions at the planning board level or if it goes beyond us related to construction activities during sensitive times for that species. I know for type 1 type activities, I know we get into that.
I think it probably is something we need to look at, given the areas, the different sections of the supplemental regulations dealing with habitat and issues of that sort when site plans are being reviewed. So that is something we probably need to look into.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that construction is limited during sensitive times and make sure we're not, doing anything that can't be done. I know DEC has protections and has a check, and yeah, we'll look into that further. What were the other ones? I'd like to see, and we ask this of all applicants, a note added to the plans, and you can kind of word it however you want. That essentially just states that the fence that's going to be put around the pool is up to New York State code for a safety fence surrounding a pool. Just to make sure we have that note on the plans. It's documented. And then the last comment and question I had was just regarding stormwater. It was noted as being discharged to adjacent properties. I don't think it's going to create a significant issue where the house is and the amount of runoff and the distance from the other properties. But I didn't know if there could be a little discussion of what those issues are related to that runoff.
The runoff will be pretty minimal given the distance. I don't know how far it'll be. It's just that unless you have pure sand, every site runs off to the neighbors. So it's there's different gullies and different paths. Most of the runoff from this site some's going to flow east from the house area, the house pool area towards the property over there, which is over 200 feet away to the east, and then down the road, as the roads, because you go up from the main road up to the house, so the drainage just naturally goes down that way. So
Well, Jim, don't you just want that documented?
I think we should get it documented. I know that
Yeah,
post-construction runoff is not to exceed pre-construction runoff onto
Right.
adjacent properties. So that is
So we
something
ju-
that needs to be addressed.
we just need to see the calculations and that in the plan, right?
Yeah. And if
Yeah, and I
necessary,
guess,
we can
I'm
have,
sorry, go ahead, Mike.
no, that's right. We can have Ray review it just to ensure that
Okay.
everything is correct.
All right.
Yeah, and I guess my primary question is that just related to, water running off of the new structures and hitting the ground and running where it runs, or were there plans to actually run any drain or anything away from structures that are being put in? I didn't see any drain on the plans. I guess that's why I was asking.
There's not anything other than the normal off the roof. There might be some, roof leaders that end right at the base of the building. But,
Sure.
but there's not any particular, except for there's a couple of culverts on the driveway to get the water under the driveway. But those are, again, only the length, their length is only basically the width of the fill. Just so
Okay,
the
so-
driveway will go over the top, but there's no plans to send water huge directions. And I'll say, if you ever get an EAF that doesn't have that checked as yes, that it's gonna go off-site, question it.
Yeah, well, for this one, like I say, it was in there. I just didn't see any details relating to pipes or anything. So again, as part of the process, we just like to ask the question and clarify.
Sure, that's not a problem. I'll take care of the pre-post.
Thank you.
Okay, shall I move on to our resolution?
Yes, please.
Hearing no complaint. All right, Kathy. The Town of
Thank
Rhinebeck
you.
Planning Board, I'm sorry?
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the application by Blue Brindle LLC for site plan and special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125, respectively, for construction of a home, detached garage, pool, and pool house, the pool house being an accessory dwelling unit, within the RC5 Rural Countryside Zoning District. We accept the application and supporting documents as adequate for further review by the planning board, its advisors, and the public. And we're classifying the action as type 2 under seeker, for which coordinated environmental quality review is precluded. We are scheduling a public hearing for the application on, when would you like to do it, Gretchen?
March 1st at 6:50.
March 1st at 6:50. And direct the clerk to undertake or otherwise cause the noticing and posting thereof in accordance with the requirements set forth in Town Code Chapter 125. We're delegating planning board members who would like to go and do the site visit for this.
We'll go.
Edna?
This is, by the way, a neighbor to our property.
Okay.
It's nowhere near our house, but it is neighboring our property.
I will go with Edna.
Okay, Edna and Melody will do a site visit and report their observation at the time of public hearing. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 9, we refer the application to the Conservation Advisory Board for review and written comment concerning environmental factors. And in accordance with Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development 239 Planning Zoning Referral, we're referring to the Dutchess County Planning Department for review. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 125, we're referring the application to the HAPAC for review and written comment concerning historic and/or archaeological elements. And we're authorizing without prejudice to any information or comment that may be presented at the public hearing or may arise based on both the above cited field visit and referral, preparation of a working draft of an approvals resolution for the planning board's consideration on March 1st or as may be later timely. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Edna. Second?
Second, Elise.
Thank you, Delise. Any comment or questions before I poll the board? Okay. Delise,
Aye.
Melody,
Aye.
Edna. Edna?
I said aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kathy,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Very good. Melody and Edna will get in touch with you about setting up the site visit.
Thank
Is
you.
the driveway in? Is the driveway in?
Serge, do you want to answer that one?
No, it is not. But there is a walkway that you can walk up where the driveway will be.
Thank you. Okay. Why don't we go to our ZBA referral, now that we've looked at the application and gone through that, and we now know what the three different variances are. Does anyone have any further questions about the variances, the zoning board of appeals, anything else that they wish to say?
Michael, this is Jim. I'd just like to add a comment because we've had this question come up in the past and it doesn't relate to this project in particular, but has been asked in the past why we say the requested variances raise no significant planning or environmental concerns. That is not related to the site plan special use permit. That is specifically related to the variances themselves.
Yes.
And request for the overage on accessory structure, square footage and the location of a garage in front of the building. It does not mean that the planning board doesn't see a significant planning with the project. It's just those variance requests.
Correct. Okay, what I'll do is I'll read the resolution that I have here. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, upon referral by the ZBA of the application by Blue Brindle LLC for 3 accessory structure area variances required to construct the pool house and detached garage components of the proposed project on Ackert Hook Road in the RC5 zoning district. 1, we find the requested variances raise no significant planning or environmental concerns. And 2, we recommend that the ZBA rely upon its own study of the facts in deciding the application in accordance with the criteria and procedures as set forth in Town Code Chapter 125, Section 12527, including consideration of the input of neighboring property owners. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Melody.
A second.
Second, Edna.
Thank you, Edna. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. We will send that on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our last item for tonight is, once again, reviewing the 2 town zoning board, zoning law amendments, country and 2 local law and revised hospitality definitions, local law. At our last meeting, I know that we had a number of questions that we wanted, we were hoping that the town board could help us with in terms of giving us some context. I know earlier today, I asked you all if you would make sure that you familiarize yourself with section 125-132 of our zoning law, which is in Article 12 amendments. And because there are 10 points there, Jim's putting it up here. There are 10 concerns that by law we are required to take into account when we review amendments referred to us from the town board, in terms of amendments to the zoning law. I can report that I have heard nothing back from the town board with reference to the request for further information that we sent. I believe they probably got it, but I can't even guarantee that they got it. I've heard nothing back. So basically what we have in terms of reviewing these 2 amendments are basically just the amendments themselves. My own opinion is that the one in terms of hospitality definitions is basically a means to quantify density, but in and of itself, it doesn't have any necessary impact one way or the other on different projects because the planning board has the authority to determine density of projects. If it's 4 bedrooms per room in a hotel, the planning board still has the right to determine how many rooms would be appropriate. I believe currently for hotels it's 60. We are not obligated to allow 60 if we feel that that would be too many. We can't give more than that. Only the zoning board of appeals can set aside maximum limits and change, as we just saw with Blue Brindle, the 3 different variances. So I personally, taking the first one first, the hospitality definitions, I don't have any problems with that, but I think that I'd like to hear from each of you if you have any problems with those before we proceed as to whether or not we wish to recommend the town board adopt or does not adopt that amendment. So I guess I'll start with Delise, since you're the first one I have on the top of the pile here in my computer.
Yeah, I didn't see any problem with it.
Okay. Kathy?
No problem.
Sean?
I don't see any problems.
Edna?
I like at what Jim had proposed at the bottom of this page, the planning board recommends that the town board revise the local law to address items 1A, excuse me, 2, consider the potential need to add a maximum occupancy. You know, I certainly can agree with that.
Okay, I think that to add a maximum occupancy would be something that would be more appropriate to doing with the special use permit definition of a hotel, motel, country in 1, country in 2, rather than a maximum occupancy here. Because that maximum occupancy is basically, I believe, a project-specific quantification, and it should be basically the way we have 5 acres in the 5-acre zoning and 10 acres in the 10-acre zoning. I think that each use should have its own maximum occupancy. Personally, I would not recommend that the town board try to do that here for each of the different hospitality uses, because I just don't think it's appropriate.
Mike, Jim, I agree. That probably should have been clarified a little to say something like in a future local law, to consider adding a maximum occupancy to commercial hospitality uses in a future local law. That should not go into definitions portion of this. But that was something that I heard as a desire based on our last conversation as part of the recommendation. It might go back to the town board. But you know, that was just my rough draft. We're certainly open to editing and changing as needed.
Edna, do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's made clear that we think it's worthy of consideration in the near future.
Yeah, I think it's something that we may wish to look to have done for each of the hospitality uses within the special use permit requirements for each use. Melody, do you have any concerns?
No, I'm fine.
Joe, do you have any concerns?
I have no concerns.
Okay. Could I hear a motion to recommend that the town board adopt the hospitality definitions with the 2 corrections that Jim has listed here? I think, what were they again, Jim? 1A and 2.
1A and 2, yes, and I will break out the maximum occupancy as a separate recommendation related to this.
I so
That's what
Melody.
Melody moves. Could I have a second?
Second, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay, the second one is the one that we sent to the town board for further information to try and, assess whether we felt that the changes they were making to the country in 2, specifically, I think the bedroom count was one that we were looking at, and some understanding of what some of the accessory uses would entail, since a number of them aren't defined in our zoning law. And if you want, since I can't read it, I can have Jim read the 10 points that we're supposed to take as our guide in assessing this amendment, if that would be helpful. If you've all read it, then there's no need to do that.
I think we've read it, haven't we?
Okay. I think the problem, I'll start and then I'll go through all of you. The problem I have with the amendment as it stands is not necessarily with the content of the amendment, but the fact that there's no context for me to understand why they're making the changes that they're making. For all I know, they're perfectly good. I don't know. I know that when we did the comp plan and initially wrote the special use permit requirements definition for a country in 2, we spent a great deal of time considering all sorts of different factors, basically this list of 10 things here, before deciding upon a definition as it has been written in the zoning law. My own feeling, as you see, we have 3 things at the bottom of this page, 3 possibilities: to recommend that they adopt it, recommend that they don't adopt it, recommend that they don't adopt it at this time, as we would like to have further information so that we can make an informed decision. My own feeling is it's the 3rd one that I would, support myself for the town board for the planning board doing, but it's up to all of us together to decide. So that's my feeling, that I don't feel I have information here to make a recommendation pro or con. And I really would like to have more information from the town board so that I can make an informed decision. But that's my feeling. And so what I'd like to do is ask each of you to speak to this. And Joe, you're now on the top of my list. If there's something that how you'd like to speak to this, what you think.
Joe, you're muted.
Thank you. I actually agree that I would like a little more clarification on how they came up with the 150 number before we voted on this.
Michael, can I just clarify what you're really sort of focusing on is the subtext B response, which is we would like more information, more answers to our questions?
Yes, that's
Okay.
my own preference. Yes.
Is there agreement on the board with the board
Well, I
members?
want each person to be able to, I want each person on the board to be able to express their opinion. This has got to be everyone in on this, everyone should have their say. And I guess, Edna, now you're at the top of the pile. So what's your feeling?
Well, I agree with you. I think that we sent a very thoughtful set of questions to the town board. And I must say, I'm rather disappointed that we have not received a response. I would add just a few words to section C. It reads, we have questions as noted above that we believe should be addressed and are not in favor of adopting the regulations as drafted before the planning board receives the information requested and has an opportunity to review it and respond.
And I think Michael was leaning towards the option B.
Yeah, I believe I don't want to close the door on this because I have neither the information to approve the amendment or to disapprove it. For all I know, 150 rooms is, exactly what it ought to be.
I know, but then wouldn't you want it to not be approved until you have?
No, what I would like to do tonight is to tell the town board that we're not going to make a recommendation at this time because we require further information and ask them basically to respond to the questions that we sent them.
Aren't we running out of time?
I don't think so. And I also think that the town board, it says we're given 60 days. It means with an agreement between the town board and the planning board, just as we can do with any applicant, we can stretch out the clock, except under certain seeker processes. But frankly, I don't want to shut the door on something that may be desirable. I don't know. And I want to make an informed decision. And right now, I don't believe we can. That's why I feel B is the one that I would prefer to support.
Well, I think C works the way I framed it, which was to say not in favor of adopting the regulations as drafted before the planning board receives the information requested, blah, blah, blah.
I don't even know if we want to say is not in favor of adopting it until we receive the information, because we may receive the information and decide not to adopt it. That's why I'd like to leave it open, not mention adopt or not adopt, say we can't make a recommendation.
What I'm afraid of is we're going to send this through essentially saying we do not have a recommendation at this time. The town board will say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead without the planning board because they haven't given us a recommendation.
Well, they can do that if they choose. That's their choice. I think it's somewhat irresponsible, but they can do that. I think, as you said, the questions that we sent, I thought were very reasonable. I don't believe they were onerous in any way, shape, or form. And the answers to those questions are things I think that they should have known and had in mind when they actually put this draft amendment together. Perhaps they didn't. Okay. Sean, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm comfortable with your suggestion, Michael. Just wondering if we could set a specific timeline for them to respond in and hopefully get that response within that timeline.
I think we would like to know by our next meeting, February 15th. I think we can add that in. I think that's a good idea. That gives them 2 weeks. They have meetings in that period where they could instruct. I think that it's Elizabeth, Chauncey, and Michael Zarin were sort of directing what goes in, and Jim has been helping him with some of the technical details of how to put things in. Although he's basically just a scribe at this point. He's not there to either represent the town board or the planning board. So we could add that in, Jim, to B, that we would like to have those information by our February 15th meeting. So hopefully we'd be in a position to issue a recommendation to the town board on this amendment.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Melody, have you had a chance to speak?
I agree with the position that we really, I mean, I'm not in a position to make a decision. I don't really understand the ramifications of what's before us. I do think that it's more prudent to ask them to respond. So that's my position at this time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add?
Kathy?
I agree, both with Melody and Michael.
All right. Could I?
Sounds like B to me.
Yeah, I think that's our consensus. What I would do is, I guess, ask for a resolution just to approve answer B as amended, to ask for answers, and by our next meeting, prior actually to our meeting on February 15th, so we're in a position to give a recommendation. Could I hear a motion to that effect?
So move.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Second, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. As soon as I hear anything from the town board, including if they yell at me, I will let you all know exactly what I hear. I believe that's all I have for tonight. I don't know if anyone else has anything that they wanted to bring up, or Jim, is there something that I've misplaced?
No, I was going to ask Gretchen for the same thing. I think we jumped around a little on the agenda, but I think we got everything. I guess the only thing I would mention is maybe at the next meeting, I put together kind of a year-end summary of what we did last year. I'm hoping to present to the planning board at the next meeting. Just kind of let you know what's been going on.
Yes, I've seen a draft of that, and it's amazing what we have been dealing with over each year, quite frankly, of late. It's a very, very busy planning board. And from what I see on the horizon, we're going to get a whole lot busier. So I guess at this point, I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. I think this is the one time when having to do Zoom meetings instead of in-person meetings actually worked to our advantage, because we sure as hell weren't going to go to town hall. So I want to thank you all very much. Stay safe. I hope no one has to do too much shoveling. And if I could hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Melody.
And Edna.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. We stand adjourned.